What women don't understand about men. Jordan B. Peterson. When relationships begin, they are often filled with passion, hope, and promises. But over time, many couples find themselves stuck in repetitive conflicts, emotional distance, and silent resentment. Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, referencing the decades-long research of world-renowned psychologist Dr. John Gottman, explains what truly breaks down marriages and what many women and men fail to understand about male emotional behavior in relationships. 1. The predictable science of divorce. Dr. John Gottman has spent his entire career studying marriage dynamics. Through thousands of hours of observation and research, he found he can predict with 91% accuracy whether a couple will eventually divorce after just 10 minutes of observing their interaction. What he looks for are not dramatic betrayals or life-changing crises, but specific emotional patterns that quietly erode trust and connection over time. These patterns are not random. They're measurable, repeatable, and almost always fatal if left unaddressed. 91%. Prediction accuracy. Gottman's ability to predict divorce after just 10 minutes of observation. 10 minutes. The short time needed to observe interaction and predict the outcome. 2. The harsh startup. When conversations begin with blame. The first red flag Gottman identifies is what he calls a harsh startup. This is when a conversation starts not with curiosity or calm communication, but with accusation and emotional hostility. It often sounds like, "You did it again. You never listen. You always forget." A harsh startup instantly triggers defensiveness. It puts the other person, often the man, into a psychological survival state where listening becomes impossible because he feels attacked rather than understood. Women often misunderstand this reaction. They interpret his silence or emotional withdrawal as indifference, when in fact he's flooded, a term we'll explore later, and physiologically overwhelmed. 3. The 4 horsemen of relationship destruction. Gottman calls the next group of toxic behaviors the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because their presence almost always predicts the end of the relationship. These are criticism, attacking a partner's character rather than their behavior. "You're so selfish" versus "I felt hurt when you didn't call." Defensiveness, refusing responsibility and shifting blame. "It's not my fault. You always overreact." Contempt, the most destructive of all. Sarcasm, mockery, eye-rolling, and emotional superiority. Stonewalling, emotional withdrawal and complete shutdown during conflict. Stonewalling is where most women become deeply confused. They see their partner looking away, giving short answers, or emotionally disengaging, and assume he doesn't care. But according to Peterson's interpretation of Gottman's research, this behavior often signals deep emotional overload, not indifference. 4. Flooding, when he feels too much to speak. Men are often accused of not feeling enough. But in reality, many men feel too much at once, so much that they can't express it coherently. This is what Gottman calls flooding. Visible overwhelm, rising waves, anger, fear, shame, nervous system overdrive. Flooding happens when emotions, anger, fear, shame, and sadness, rise so intensely that the body's nervous system goes into overdrive. Heart rate spikes, breathing becomes shallow and rational. Conversation shuts down. 5. Physiological distress, when emotional conflict becomes physical. Unresolved emotional conflict doesn't stay in the mind, it manifests in the body. Long-term relationship stress can cause ulcers, headaches, chronic pain, fatigue, and even addiction. When men feel trapped in a loop of emotional tension without repair, they begin to physically deteriorate. They may drink more, work excessively, or emotionally isolate as a form of self-protection. 6. Bad memories, rewriting the past through pain. When emotional wounds go unhealed, couples begin to reinterpret their entire relationship through bitterness. What once was, he was late because he was nervous about our wedding, becomes, he's always late, he never cared. This phenomenon, called negative sentiment override, is a major predictor of divorce. The brain rewires itself to selectively remember only the disappointments, erasing gratitude, kindness, and love from memory. 7. Failed repair attempts, the real cause of divorce. Every couple fights. Even the healthiest relationships experience disagreement, frustration, and anger. The difference between lasting marriages and failed ones is repair, the ability to come back together after conflict. A repair attempt can be as simple as saying, "I'm sorry," laughing together, reaching out to hold hands, saying, "Let's start over." When couples stop repairing, when pride, resentment, or ego override connection, the relationship begins to crumble. Peterson echoes this insight. Fighting isn't the problem. Failing to reconnect is. The real danger lies not in conflict, but in emotional disconnection. 8. The thing is never the thing. The hidden truth behind every fight. Gottman's and Peterson's shared insight is profound. Most fights aren't about what they appear to be. You think you're fighting about money, the in-laws, chores, parenting styles. But you're not. You're fighting because you feel emotionally disconnected. The true question underneath every argument is, do you still care about me? Do I still matter to you? Are we still on the same team? Once connection is restored, the issue itself loses its weight. This is why in healthy relationships, conflict leads to greater intimacy, not distance. 9. What women and men must learn. Women often misread men's silence as a lack of emotion, when it's usually emotional overload. Men often misread women's intensity as irrationality, when it's usually a cry for reconnection. The tragedy is that both partners are fighting for the same thing, to feel seen, safe, and loved, but in opposite ways. Peterson's deeper message is that understanding the psychophysiology of male emotion, how men process stress, shame, and emotional flooding, is critical to building compassion and communication in relationships. When women understand this, they stop taking men's withdrawal personally. When men learn to communicate through discomfort, they stop letting silence destroy their connection. Final thought: love is not the absence of conflict, it's the art of repair. Gottman's decades of research and Peterson's philosophical insight converge on a simple truth. You don't need a perfect marriage. You need a resilient one. Fighting is inevitable. Misunderstandings are natural. Emotional flooding will happen. But if both partners can recognize, pause, and repair, they can transform conflict into connection. The strength of a relationship is not measured by how often you avoid arguments, but by how gracefully you find your way back to each other after them.